So today we're taking a look at Cadillac's 2013 XTS. This is Cadillac's largest sedan in its lineup, and we thought, just for sake of explaining what an XTS actually is and how it functions, we thought we would compare it to one of its spiritual forebears, the 1968 Cadillac Sedan DeVille. To start off with, we want to just look at the design. Cadillac in the last few years has come up with a kind of a renaissance in its styling department, where they've adapted this art and science design. But even though this is a new and contemporary design language that started with the 2004 CTS, it is not devoid of traditional Cadillac styling elements. First off, we can see here that the 1968 Sedan DeVille has stacked headlamps, vertically stacked headlamps. We walk over and look at the XTS, and clearly it has this heritage styling, vertical headlights that run from top to bottom of the fender. Also, 1968 Cadillac Sedan DeVille has this nice pronounced egg crate grille. We see that it's sculpted with the hood. It drops down below the bumper. The XTS, same styling element, just with contemporary flair. We see this pronounced hood sculpt. We see the egg crate grille below and above the bumper. Taking a walk in between the cars, we see some dramatic differences. First of all, the XTS has 20-inch rims compared to the 68 DeVille. 15-inch steel wheels with full wheel covers. These were nicknamed sombrero wheel covers just because of their reference to the Mexican sombrero hat. As we walk to the back of the car, we see some distinct differences. Cadillac has introduced a 6-window greenhouse with the XTS, something that has not been seen on a Cadillac sedan really since the 1975 and 76 Sedan DeVille. As you can see here, the 68 DeVille has a much more traditional, though rakish, roof. And then, of course, at the back of the car, we see yet another key Cadillac styling trait that has been carried over into the XTS, this nice blade tail lamp, which kind of evokes the tail fin look of the 1968 DeVille, along with many, many other Cadillacs over the years. So inside the 68 DeVille, we have such high-tech features as an automatic climate control. You can dial the temperature in and then set it on low, auto, high. You've got defrost, ice, I'm not sure what that does, and vent. We have 2 knobs, one for turning the radio on and turning the volume up, one for adjusting the AM radio, plus we have 5 presets for the AM radio. Other features of the 68 DeVille are windshield wipers that have a low and a high and a higher setting. They also have an automatic wash. We also have a turn signal stalk, which blinks right or left on the front fenders up where you can see it at night, so that you can be warned that you're actually going to change a lane. So as you can see, the instrument panel on our 2013 Cadillac XTS is much more complex than the simple AM radio with 2 dials and our automatic climate control on the 68 DeVille. Q is Cadillac's newest approach to a user interface on a infotainment system. You can see here that we have a fairly, did you see that? It noticed that my hand waved in front of it and the buttons popped up. It's a fairly tablet style interface for the radio controls, for the phone, for the navigation system. It also gives us automatic climate control that can be adjusted either on the screen or with our buttons here, or lack of buttons here. These are touch sensitive places on the screen. One of the things our 68 DeVille also doesn't have is this neat little cubby behind our climate control with a nice USB port inside. One of the things that makes Q a progressive interface for the driver is some of the features that it has up on the instrument panel. For instance, we can scroll between gauges. We have our trip computer where we can monitor through various settings and tell our different, our tire pressure, our oil life, our battery voltage, but we can also just set it as to be a tachometer needle, or we can look at our fuel economy and our trip information. We can then scroll over to our speedometer, which gives us the option of putting our navigation system right in the center, so we don't have to look over to the center screen. We can also monitor through various settings. We can set it at just telling us what direction and speed we're going, or we can use a simple needle. This is all redundant with what is difficult for a camera to pick up with our heads-up display, which has a nice feature which actually projects through our nav system what the speed limit actually is, so you can compare your speed limit, the speed limit to your vehicle speed without taking your eyes off the road or even looking for a speed limit sign. Our last setting on the right-hand side gives us some radio information along with our temperature and our fuel gauges. So one of the other features this car has is an adaptive cruise control. Basically, you can set the cruise and you can set the distance that you want to maintain from a car in front of you. We've tried out the system. It works very seamlessly. If you're one that's into using cruise control, we found that the car actually does a decent amount of slowing itself down as you approach another vehicle and also accelerating on its own to match the vehicle speed in front of you. One of the interesting features with this car is that it has a driver warning system that consists of lane departure warnings, which you'll see little lights in the side view mirror as a car gets into your blind spot or alongside of you. And it also is able to detect and read the lines on the pavement. If you drift a little bit to the right or to the left, there's a motor in the seat that will vibrate to your right or to your left to warn you that you are approaching the edge of the road or approaching the edge of the lane. This has been a very handy feature as we've familiarized ourselves with the Q system, as we've taken maybe more attention off the road than we should. It has gently reminded us to stay in the lane. This is much more advanced than what we have in the 68 DeVille, which basically consists of turn signal lights on the edge of the hood to remind yourself that you're actually changing lane. Traditionally, Cadillac stuck with V8 engines for most of its modern history, or at least the last 50 years or so. And the 1968 DeVille was no different. 472 cubic inch V8. We won't bother to list off the horsepower and torque numbers since they were the old, our old SAE numbers. But our modern Cadillac XTS over here does away with the traditional Cadillac V8 in place of a corporate V6. This engine is good for 304 horsepower and 264 foot-pounds of torque. Not a whole lot of power for this size vehicle. And for comparison's sake, if we go back to the last truly big Cadillac prior to the XTS, the 1996 Cadillac Fleetwood, that car only had 260 horsepower, but it had 333 foot-pounds of torque. This car, by comparison, gets 17 miles per gallon in the city, 26 highway. The old ratings for that Fleetwood Brougham was exactly the same, but it was with the old rating system, so slightly less than what this XTS is able to achieve. One thing we haven't mentioned is that this V6 powers an all-wheel drive car with a 6-speed automatic transmission. Not the highest tech transmission that we have on the road, but considerably better than the 4-speed automatics of old in that Fleetwood Brougham. As we talk about fuel economy, one of the clever new features of the XTS is in its fuel filler. It has a capless fuel filling system, so no need for a cap, just insert the fuel nozzle right there. It's a direct contrast to our old 1960 sedan DeVille, which has the fuel filler hidden behind in such a safe place, hidden behind the license plate. So here we have the trunk of the 1968 DeVille. It is enormous, but notice there's no pass-through into the rear seat, and we have this big, bulky, full-size tire. Our XTS, in contrast, has a motorized rear deck lid. We have a very deep trunk with a pass-through into the rear seat. And we have no spare tire because we have a spare tire kit in order to save weight to therefore increase fuel economy. So how does the XTS drive? Well, certainly as compared to the 1968 DeVille, it's much more composed on the road. But compared to other things in its class, this car handles quite well. For an all-wheel drive car based on a front-wheel drive platform, we were very pleased with the way that it handles, the way that it corners, and the way that it rides. The ride is not too stiff, and it's a comfortable highway cruiser, but yet is able to get out of its own way when we turn a corner. So what does the XTS set us back? This car, fully equipped, it's a Platinum Edition, all-wheel drive, sets us back $64,695, which includes destination charge. We feel that that's a very good value for the type of content that you get in this luxury car. The only thing really lacking, we feel, in this car is that it is a little underpowered for its class. And the overall proportions don't scream so much of a premium sedan as maybe some of the other luxury brands from Mercedes-Benz or Audi. XTS over here does away with the traditional Cadillac V8 in place of a corporate V6. We're going to have to redo that.